we have a new president-elect. How do you think? A lot of my military friends, or at least my Republican friends, as you know, they love President Trump. President Trump, he couldn't do anything wrong. But was he okay for the military, you think?
Trump? Was he okay for the military? I don't believe so, no, at all. I don't think how you can have a draft dodger be the commander-in-chief and think this man has any idea what he's doing, because he clearly doesn't. He showed time and time again severe disdain for the men and women in uniform. Even if you want to, say, oh, that was an unverified statement, like he treated our generals like shit. James Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, was my battalion commander when I was in Iraq. Yeah. That man's like a god to the Marine Corps. 40 years service, since Vietnam. Like, this man is a true American hero. And he was Trump's Secretary of Defense. Like, you couldn't pick a better person to be in that job to keep America safe. And Trump wouldn't heed his counsel. Like, you gotta be, like, if you don't listen to James Mattis about how to run your military, you're a moron. You're an absolute moron. And if you disrespect that man, God help you. God.
What about General Kelly, right?
Yeah. Joe Kelly was his White House chief of staff for a little bit.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he was chief of staff or was like he sat on the Joint Chiefs. And it's like there was like three different. Oh yeah, Kelly hated him. Kelly hated his job. He was, after like the first couple of weeks, like I read John Bolton's book about what that was like, and he said Kelly was just like this negative guy. So like the whole time was just like, fuck this job. I don't want to do this. Like, sorry if I'm not sure if I was supposed to cuss or anything. Kelly hated every second he was in that job. And he was another Marine general. He was a great American hero. Was Alexander Vindman, who was the whistleblower, but the whole Ukrainian issue that kicked off the impeachment trials. Like, this man had been shot in combat. He's a Purple Heart winner. And the Trump administration saw to it that he was disgraced out of the U.S. government. Our old ambassador, when you and I were in Kyrgyzstan together, Marie Yovanovitch.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like, I mean, I know she was in the military, but she's a great American hero, a public servant, disgraced and mistreated by the Trump administration. I don't see how you could be in any level of government during the Trump administration and not just, shake your head every day. And how you can support and say that Trump was good for the military or foreign policy or domestic policy or anything, then I will argue till my last breath.
When he had General Mattis come on, I thought that was an amazing. I was positive. I thought that was great. Like,
I was like, at least someone's minding the store. There's an adult room. Someone will break his hand before he can launch the nukes. And then when he quit, I just really lost a lot of hope.
When Mathis was around, for me at least, I thought there's going to be sensible, he's going to listen to this guy because of his experience, because of how logical he is, how sensible he is, and what he's done in his life. And that didn't work. And then General Kelly came on, of the chief of staff, and I thought, okay, this is even closer, this is even closer to him. Like, this is going to be advice every day.
There's another Marine general, and like there was a couple of other like strong military people in his cabinet, in his orbit, that he just fired over a period of time. And it just, even the guy Mark Esper, the recent SecDef, who he was once like the Secretary of the Army. He was a veteran. He was like a chopper pilot or something cool like that. I didn't really like the guy over that much, but he tried. Trump disgraced him too, Like, all these people, like, he's done nothing but shit on our military since the day he took office.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of other Republicans a lot of other friends that I see on Facebook and other places, they yeah, I mean, it's like Trump is doing so good for the military. Um, yeah, man. When it comes to U.S. politics, I've had so many, people say like, oh, he it's a race thing. All white people vote for him. I've seen so many people support him and so many people against him. It's like, well,
Mhm.
logical people seem like, just like Russia, right? This whole thing with Russia. Um, I, I don't know, man. It was really a debacle that happened. Like the whole everything that was going on. Uh, but I was seeing like people wearing T-shirts that said, "I'd rather be a Russian than a Democrat."
Yeah.
This is, these are
Yeah.
Republicans, like people who were originally like the ones against foreign, you know, anything foreign.
I mean, you can probably point to Russian disinformation campaigns and squarely peg those efforts as one of the reasons for the escalation in political polarization between what we would say the left and the right in our country. I mean, they've been actively leading these disinformation campaigns for years, and they've done to us just the same thing that they've done in Ukraine, in former Yugoslavian countries, in Georgia. This is what they do. They blast the country with all kinds of divisive rhetoric, messaging, social marketing that really gets two sides to start to hate each other. They create a civil war, move in at the right time, and install their own strongman as a puppet leader. That's the Russian playbook for the past, 100 years, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of like there are a lot of Democrats and Republicans who are, more central in their thinking, and they might be long term Republicans and Democrats, but they're they're not too far off the mark from each other. But now it just seems like Democrats are, all the way over here, and Republicans are all the way over here. That there's certain factions of it, and it's like extreme left and extreme right. I mean, extreme left and extreme right, and it's like that. That's never, that in my opinion, anything that extreme is never good in politics or in your, in regular life or personal life, whatever it is. If you go to that much of an extreme where you can't even see the other side, then
Mhm.
there's something, we did something wrong.
No, I completely agree. That's why I think Joe Biden was such an important, pick, because he represents a centrist ideal. He does have a lot of, like, outreach to that far left progressive platform with things like, climate change and policing. Those things, all that stuff is really up for grabs. But he also, there's a lot of things on the right that he maintains. He doesn't support marijuana legalization. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are some there's some give and take there. I think he's a really good representative of what we need right now. And I completely agree with what you're saying about the extremist visions. I mean, some people want change to happen. They want, this liberal utopia to occur in this country, with the change of a presidency. And that is never going to happen. It's just never, societies progress very gradually over the course of generations. We will improve the way that, the social equity, like lowering the poverty level, trying to widen what the middle class looks like, and increase posterity for all of our citizens. Try to make the United States look like Switzerland, where everybody reads. Everybody has a good education. Everybody's got some kind of comfortable home. It's like illiteracy is not even a thing. They got like a 99.9% literacy rate in their country. Right now we have like something stupid. It's like 70% literacy rate in the country. It's really shameful what our education level is. But those are the types of shifts that happen over generations, you know, and so, you know, extremist ideology is completely out the window if you want to make actual change. If you want to gradually grow the society at the level that it is prepared for, then everybody's got to reach across the aisle, and everybody has to give up something.
Yeah. Does it matter if America has a good standing in the world?
Yeah, we can't do anything without our allies. We depend on them for like think about like the intelligence.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the intelligence that we get is secrets that are given to us by our allies who trust us to use that information well. Over the past 4 years, we have not demonstrated that we can do that. I think a lot of our partners are watching what's been happening in this country, and that's what's scary. It's like, you know, they don't want to talk to us. They don't want to give us their sources. They don't want to tell us how they know something because it compromises one of their intelligence sources, and they may not want to take that risk to help us if our president is on TV blasting them and tweeting all this like heinous shit about people every day. It's like getting in fights with our NATO partners, you know, withdrawing from the World Health Organization in the middle of a global pandemic. These are the types of things that have our allies not wanting to be our allies when we depend on them for our safety and security. There is no option to withdraw from the globe, from the global market, from the global workforce. Like there is no option to be xenophobic and to build walls anymore. There's 8 billion people in this world. All of our economies are intertwined with each other. All our global, impact on the climate is all intertwined with each other. We have to cooperate. We have to be good neighbors.
Can America progress without war?
Yes, it could. I firmly believe it could.
What about the all the money that comes in from wars?
Their money does not come in from wars. That's actually a complete misnomer. One of the first things they teach us in conflict science is that actual armed or protracted violent conflicts will reduce a country's GDP between 2 and 10%, depending on how long it goes on. So war has the potential to enrich, certain people who make money off of arms deals, and they make money off of some of the resource allocation that goes on after the war is over. But that's just that's like the oligarchic portions of society. It's protracted violent conflicts are detrimental to most societies, and it's broken a lot of them. That's what broke Rome.
The Soviet Union, in its last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good point. What about these people who say, oh, America makes billions from oil that they get? What about that?
Oil is going by way of fossil fuels have had their time in human society. So oil is not, I mean, like it's just dumb if that's what you're trying to engage in armed conflicts over. What people really ought to be focusing on is water. Water is a much more scarce resource. Renewable energies are going to come about and replace fossil fuels. It's going to be rough, and it's probably going to happen sooner than we think.
Like coal.
Coal, all that stuff is going to go away and be replaced by hydropower, wind power, solar. All that stuff is going to slowly but surely become a thing. The technology's already there. We can't keep it bottled up anymore. Yeah. But people are going to start fighting over things like water, because that is actually a very scarce resource. And fresh water is only 3% of the world's actual water. And a lot of people live in drought conditions in this world, in the Sahel, in sub-Saharan Africa, East Asia. like access to fresh water is extremely rare. And it was actually, that's one of the things that started the Syrian conflict. People were arguing over access to water rights in Syria. And that's what started the protests that eventually had the Syrian government shooting them in the streets. But eventually the conflict was originally it was all over water.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine an America that isn't at war.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like ever since the first Gulf War, what was that, 92 or 91, 92, 93 maybe? Ever since then, I mean, for most of that time, I guess there was a little bit of period between that and September 11th, where America wasn't really at war. But now, I mean, yeah, it's hard, man. A lot of people think that once, if America gets out of Afghanistan and Iraq, it already knows what the next war is going to be, and that's why Iran is on the radar.
And that could very much be in the minds of the powers that be at this point.
Yeah.
So this gets back to your question about the need for a big military versus a small military. When the military, wherever the military is, big or small, there is a shadow economy that exists around it, between government contractors, housing developers, whatever. There are people who survive off of around and adjacent to the military. So if the military itself shrinks, all the people who depend on that are left with nothing. It's the same as like a factory pulling out of a small town. That creates a lot of joblessness and a lot of economic woe. So I think a lot of people in the government look at this massive military, realize that if it does shrink, this could have disastrous effects on the national economy. So rather than biting the bullet, so to speak, or finding other economic and civic tools to make that transition for a large amount of people from military sustenance into a different role that would be more helpful for society, instead of like actually doing that hard work, they just, let's just keep the military really big and keep throwing it in different places and using it, because if we don't use it, then we get all these problems, we have to reduce it. So yeah, maybe they will just keep coming up with other reasons to send our people overseas to fight. I truly hope that's not the case. I truly hope that's not the case. Like, this whole country needs a break. It would be nice to have a good generation, your boys' generation, go without a war for once.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't. War sometimes is inevitable, in my opinion, man. But if you can do whatever you can to stop it, that's the goal. Is I know sometimes it's hard, but war is it just ruins everything, man.
It does. Very well that it's so horrible. We should only do it if we absolutely have to. I think World War II was a great example of battles that were horrible that had to be fought.
Yeah.
But right now, I look around the globe and I see tons of armed conflicts that don't need to be fought.
Can America morally not get involved?
It depends. It depends. Like I don't always know how to answer that question.
Like, some people say it's a moral, it's a moral obligation for the superpower to go and help countries that are, being run by, dictators who treat their people unfairly and, rape and pillage and kill, and just, the elite have the power, and then everybody else can go to hell.
the truth of the matter is, depending on the situation, external influence could just make things worse. Because you look at a place like Africa, you know, the Hutus and the Tutsis, like that's the type of conflict that's still small enough where, you know, like I think it was like the French who actually engaged in that, but that's the type of conflict that's small enough that it can be halted through force of arms. But if you look at something like Syria, I think one of the reasons we didn't really get involved there is because had we got involved in it, it would make things worse. Look what happened when we cut off the head of the snake in Iraq. Everything fractionalized. Everybody went into tribal mode and created this quagmire of a civil war that we're still trying to pick through today. That would be the exact same thing that happened in Syria, and the bloodbath would be probably even worse than what we've actually seen. So
yeah, man, you know, when it comes to conflict, I think we can just talk about it, you know, we could talk about it for hours, and I think we'd come back to the conclusion that if it's possible, don't go to war, you know, like don't go to war. I think most Americans don't want us to be in any wars. They want the government to concentrate on them, on improving infrastructure, on improving, you know, I think it's 1 in 5 or 1 in 8 kids in America go to sleep hungry. So like work on things like that really affect American, you know, the American people from the bottom, you know, work on it from the top down and the bottom up, or however way you want to look at it. But these wars just don't make sense anymore. It made sense after September 11th, but now for the common American, I think when they're seeing, I think it's like $700 billion for the budget for the military. They're thinking, hey, what do you, 700 billion? Are we spending all of that? Because they don't know that's going into, you know, research and development for weapons and, you know, maintenance and salaries and all this other, you know, things that need to maintain the army. But they're thinking, holy, you know, hell, 700 billion for the military. We can use a lot more of that for ourselves.
Yeah.
And
with a small portion of the defense spending that we have, we could probably end, at the very least, you know, hunger in the United States. I don't know exactly how to compare those numbers, but I've seen some statistics that talk about that. It's just the amount of money that we spend on our military is so insane. And I think we can reduce that number without reducing the quality of life or the quality of readiness that our warfighters need to you know, be prepared.
What do you think about people who give up their citizenship?
If they have their reasons, I completely, you know, that's fine. I might find myself in that position one of these days where I want to go to a different country.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to give up on the idea of the great American ideal. You know, I really think this country has always had a lot of problems, and we have not been the best actor on the world stage. But I think America still has the potential to realize, you know, that the unrealized dream, where, you know, the American dream for all, liberty and justice for all. I think we have the potential to get there, but we haven't gotten there yet. And depending on how things go in the next 5 to 10 years, I might be one of the ones who be like, I'm done. If I had to sit through another Trump presidency, I probably would have found a way to give up my citizenship and go somewhere.
You know,
last 4 years are very difficult.
I was reading this thing about this dude who said, you know, if Bush wins again, Bush Jr., I'm going to give up my citizenship. And those are the kind of things that, you know, it's like, dude, I know you're emotional, but you got to think about it a little bit. So
there are other places in the world that are better to live than the United States. Canada would probably be a lot better to live in than the United States. especially with COVID right now. I would much rather live in South Korea than live here right now, because South Koreans can walk around without masks. They can go see their families right now. I can't see you, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we have done a horrible job of handling this virus when it was a preventable thing. And I think that's extremely unfortunate. I think America can be great, but we haven't been. We just have the potential to be.
Man, I think on that note, and I agree, man, America has great potential. And I think it's one of the, I think still with all of its problems, which country doesn't have problems, right?
Yeah.
Which country, even in Europe, Switzerland, Norway, all these countries with tiny populations still have their own problems. It's like no country is without problems. And then such a diverse country like America, I mean, it's like you go, even in DC, you go from like area to area, and it's like it feels like you're in a totally different place.
That's true. That's true.
And so, yeah, I mean, I agree, man. I think I love America. I want it to be better. I want it to, I want everyone to I don't know, man. It's one of these things where I'll give you the last word.
I would just
can we get to a place where Americans are not so, at each other's throats politically? Can we get to a place where economically we all feel like we're moving forward?
We can, if it's going to take rich people giving things up. It's going to take powerful people giving up power and rich people giving up money. Like it's going to take a massive shift in policy and thought in this country for those real changes to happen. But it's entirely possible. It can totally happen. But it's going to take more conversations like this. It's going to take more people like you who can see from both sides and hear the wisdom from both and try to bring people together. That's what it's going to take. Yeah.
Well, man, thank you so much for talking. And this is my first Moody Talk. So thank you for being, the first guest. I had a wonderful time, man. We always,
hey, man, I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me and doing this. It was great to chat with you.
Yeah, maybe in the future, if I have like a panel of people talking, you come on again.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
All right, man. Well, you take care. Thanks a lot. All right, bye.